Welcome to Health Facts with Normani Ricks. I am your host, Normani Ricks. I like to start off each episode with a little known health fact. Did you know that drinking wine could spark your heart rate? I didn't know that either until I was wearing an Apple Watch and it alerted me that my heart was racing after I enjoyed a glass of red wine. I was shocked. I did my research and I learned that alcohol consumption is dangerous for those who that are sensitive to sulfites or dehydrated. That's why I recommend drinking water without alcohol, eating food, or at least drinking in moderation. I have the honor and pleasure of having Mr. Bob Messerschmidt with me on the show today. Mr. Messerschmidt is a former Apple Watch architect and engineer who played a key role in developing Apple Health features. He's now the founder of COR Health and has created the COR One, the world's first at-home device that measures inflammation with just a single drop of blood. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Thank you very much, Normani. Very nice to meet you.
Can you please tell us about this amazing device?
I sure can. As you mentioned, I was an Apple platform architect. And was there during the really early days of Apple Health and was starting up under Steve Jobs' direction, as well as the Apple Watch became a project also under his direction. He was very early into the idea that we could bring health measurements to individuals, to consumers, let them measure things, even things that were traditionally the domain of traditional medicine. Right. And there would be a benefit in letting people see data and then act on it in a personalized loop. When I was ready to leave Apple, because I'm really a small company guy, serial co-founder, I started thinking about inflammation as a problem that was not being thought about in the way of everything that that Apple was working on would result in longitudinal data. So any wearable that you can think of, a watch, a ring, even a CGM device, getting in a more medical direction. They really all have the purpose of allowing you to see trends in data. So there's some frequent cadence to that data. And there was nothing like that in the area of inflammation. So I wanted to bring that to market. And I focused on this particular biomarker called erythrocyte sedimentation rate, which is a marker that, is highly prognostic of longevity, health, wellness, morbidity and mortality. It seemed like a natural thing for people to want to be able to track. And I'm a hardware guy, an instrument guy. And so that's how I think, right? I think about how to build an instrument to make this measurement. And so that's what I did.
Awesome. So I know that people think of markers such as getting on a scale to see how much you weigh, measuring your blood pressure. And then when the Apple Watch came out and other things like it, they're like, oh, we have to get 10,000 steps a day. So with me being a person that interviews a lot of doctors, a lot of professors, a lot of researchers, they often talk about how chronic inflammation really leads to a lot of chronic issues. So what do you say to people that are not in the medical space? How do you, advise them that that's important to look at?
Right. Well, it's a fairly new thing that the research community and the medical community is finding that inflammation really is underpinning all chronic disease. Mm-hmm. This is a fairly new thing, so we're kind of right at the cusp of it. There's almost always an inflammatory process in any chronic condition, whether it's a cardiovascular thing or a metabolic thing. And it's even underlying in a lot of acute disease. So even in some cancers, many cancers, actually, it's underlying. There's all kinds of different inflammation too. So but the good news is that there are markers that have been around erythrocyte sedimentation rate has been around for 120 years.
Okay.
And, it has more validation behind it than, well, at least as much validation as, it's a very good, very well validated marker of inflammation. And so that's why we focused on it.
I looked up the device and it looks like you can do people who have diabetes where you prick your finger and
that's right.
It gives you a reading. So a lot of people measure their blood sugar that way. So as far as people being able to measure their inflammation that way, if they do it and their inflammation is high, like what do you suggest they do to remedy it?
Right. Well, so the idea is that, the data show that there are both medical interventions and non-medical interventions that can be useful in people who have inflammation. And everybody has inflammation. I'm surprised as I look across the population, there's a medically allowable range for really any biomarker. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit technical here.
Please do.
The medical standard range or clinically normal range for any biomarker is that it's a population number. It's based on where 95% of the population is below a certain number. So, you have, just like any quantitative biomarker, with ESR, you have a quantitatively allowable range, which is really, because it's defined this way, that it's really quite high. Like, you really don't want to be at that 95% interval point, right? Okay. It means that 95% of the population, 94% of the population is doing better than you are in terms of this particular marker. So you want to drive that down if there's a dose response. So, and there is. So it's again, in the literature, plenty of literature shows that there's a dose response, which is to say that the lower your ESR number, or let's just speak more generally about inflammation, the lower you can maintain your inflammation, that's going to be correlated with better outcomes.
Okay.
And so the real question is that you're asking is what things can be done that are known to lower inflammation. A very large number of interventions are not medical interventions. There are food interventions, lifestyle, fitness, even sleep. Sleep is a huge one, actually.
Okay.
So we have a population of users that they might be being treated for a chronic inflammatory condition, and they might have some medical treatment for that, or they might not, right? They either do or don't. But if they have elevated inflammation that we can measure, there are non-medical interventions that can be used. One thing that works for me is a juice drink called tart cherry juice. So the juice of tart cherries, you can buy it at Walmart now. It's available everywhere because the secret's kind of out. Mm-hmm. It actually has a double whammy effect because of the anthocyanins that are present in the tart cherries. That's a known anti-inflammatory compound. And there are a lot of fruits that are really good, fruits and vegetables, but especially fruits that are really good for lowering inflammation. But tart cherries have this double whammy because they also have a sleep promoting substance in them. They have a precursor of tryptophan, and everybody knows tryptophan is a sleep, from the Thanksgiving turkeys, right? It's a sleep inducing substance. And there's a precursor of that in tart cherry juice. So not only do you get the direct benefit of the anthocyanins, but you also get this, in one study, an average of 40 additional minutes of sleep a night in the test group that was taking the tart cherry juice. So, there are really easy things to do to, I started talking about me personally. That'll knock 10 points off my inflammation, within days. If I start drinking tart cherry juice before bedtime.
Wow.
And it might work for you, it might not. So, the other thing that is sort of a call to action for us is that a lot of these interventions are very personalized. So the only way you're really going to know, whether something is effective for you or not is to try it. So we have over 1,000 users in the field and over 10,000 tests with our device. Most of them, I think, would consider themselves sort of citizen scientists.
Okay.
They like to do various intervention tests, right? They like to try something. But think about it. We all do this all the time, right? We try some new food item that we think is going to be healthful. And you can do that and not really know whether it was healthful or not. But if you have that data point, then you have additional evidence that what you're doing is actually helping you, helping in this case, particularly inflammation.
Awesome. So I did not know that about sleep, but I did know that about the tart cherry. There's one that I like to get, Cherry Bundy from Publix. And one of my friends whose parents had gout told me about that.
Yep.
So I thought that was fascinating, and it really does work with decreasing inflammation in your body.
It really does.
Yeah. So I think a lot of food items, you can kind of look back into the science and then see like, okay, this is in this fruit or this vegetable or this, item. And like, okay, the science technically does say that this will work. Yeah. So it's not negating science. It's just going back to nature.
Yeah, not at all negating science. In fact, so many of the best drugs we have in the drug arsenal derived from natural ingredients. So they really are foods. They're extracted, but that whatever that active ingredient is, it already existed in our food supply.
Exactly. So I think that's why a lot of Mediterranean diet works for inflammation. Yeah. So I know that a lot of people like to say, oh, the carnivore diet. And then some people say, okay, well, be a vegetarian. But I think what works for humans is putting both of those things together, because that just goes back to nature, right? So I think a lot of these added things and man-made things is kind of what makes us inflamed, even though we enjoy bread and things that are pies and all that stuff. I think it does make us more inflamed.
We have, I didn't know whether that was true or not, going into starting up COR, but now I have evidence of that, right? So we have probably the world's largest database now on inflammation, tract inflammation. So, longitudinal inflammation data was not really existing in any database. And we have it now in the COR database, and we don't share that with anyone, but we can look at the data in an anonymized fashion. Mm-hmm. And we can say, okay, what are people telling us they're doing? Because you can add tags and notes in the app. What are people doing? Or I guess say it the other way, for people who add a note that they're doing a certain thing.
Yes.
Does that turn out to be anti-inflammatory or not? And we measure that two ways. We say in people who report that thing, let's say a ketogenic diet, and then they have multiple readings after they add that note. Do the readings tend to be going down, stay the same, or do they tend to be going up? And the second metric that we use is just where somebody's if they added that tag, where are they relative to the population norm for their age and gender? Because inflammation varies with both age and gender. And so we can look very, in a very simple manner in the data, and we can say, well, what things are really effective for inflammation? And the thing you mentioned, ketogenic eating, low carb eating, those people have lower inflammation than high carb eaters. People who add the tag sugars, in various, their various forms, those people have higher inflammation than others. So it kind of all makes sense.
Yes. So how did you guys come up with, or whoever came up with it, that 10,000 steps per day was the standard? Who came up with that?
That's an interesting one. I was curious about that myself, and it turns out it's kind of made up.
Okay.
It came from Japan. This is how I understand it, and one of your readers might correct me if I have any of this wrong. But there was a fitness company in Japan, or it might have been that it was some public health resource in Japan said 10,000 steps as a way to get people more active.
Okay.
But the number 10,000 itself was just kind of picked out of thin air.
Okay. I was curious about that. So I did hear that you said that slow walking is better than fast walking. And I didn't know that they say just walking in general is better than running. And that is such a strange, I guess, thing to think about. But can you speak more on that?
I don't know what I can, but maybe not intelligently. So, I mean, I don't know what that mechanism is either. It seems odd to me also, except that there's probably an argument related to engaging more muscle groups. So it's not necessarily speed is more of a, is going to result from strength. But you don't need to be developing the strength in order to walk slowly. In fact, by walking slowly, you can actually be burning more. So not per minute, but per mile, you burn more energy when you walk slowly. So think about it that way. If you're going to walk a mile or run a mile, which one burns more calories or consumes more energy is another way of saying that. And actually the walking burns more energy. So you can think of it as a more efficient type of exercise.
That's so interesting to me. Another thing that kind of pops in my mind is if you're a person, I'm going to say a woman in particular, and like our cortisol levels spike and make us gain weight. So if you're a person doing intense running or intense weightlifting or intense anything, it's kind of counterproductive for us. So I think that a lot of women like to do like stretching, yoga, going for walks, because it does calm your nervous system while you're exercising. So that might be somewhat of an explanation for women. I don't know about men.
I think, we get stressed too. And I think that is a very good argument. I don't recall seeing studies on that, but that makes sense to me, right? Because stress is actually something that will increase your inflammation. Okay. Yeah, that does make sense.
All right. So my last question that I have for you is, what advice do you have for other people who are innovators? So innovators, entrepreneurs, like, how do you have the confidence to put yourself out there?
Yeah. Well, it's a really timely question because I have a daughter who's in 11th grade, and she might or might not go into science. She might or might not become an inventor because she's very artistic as well. So I don't know where which muse she will end up following. But, my advice to her is always, do the thing that you can't stop thinking about. Right. So if you are not happy doing the thing that you end up doing, then, it's just, why, what's life worth, you really need to be doing that. So you need to follow your muse was always the advice. Right. And that's my advice to anyone. And, it's not frivolous at all to say that. It's, you're going to perform best at the thing that engages your mind. And so that's what I tell my daughter, and that's what I tell anyone.
That's really, really great advice. So if someone wanted to purchase your device, how would they go about doing that?
We have a website, an e-com website. They can go to corhealth.com. And that's just CORHEALTH. There's no E. So corhealth.com. Just go there. You'll read all the information about it. You'll see Dr. Lufkin on there, who's our medical advisor. He's the one that connected you and I.
Yes.
And hopefully all the information you need, and then you can check out and buy a device right there.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And how can people find you on social media? I think you're on LinkedIn. Are you on anything else?
I have a Twitter account. Yep, I'm COR Health Inc. CORHEALTHINC.
Okay.
Or my personal Twitter is or X, I guess now. Oh, I'm Bob Me. BOBME.
Okay.
Is my handle on Twitter.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wonderful knowledge. I know that this is going to help a lot of people. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and just great meeting you.